some of the objectives that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about different definitions of prevalence. We're going to talk about, can everybody, if I stand right here, can everybody see? Is that okay? Okay. I added a section in here talking about the relationships with families because you work so closely with these families. I wanted to give you a lot of information about how to work with foster families, that you have a child that has NAS, and also the biological family, because sometimes it happens where you have a child that has NAS and that child goes back to the biological family. So I want to talk about that. The symptoms during infancy, how to care for these substance-exposed infants, some overstimulation, which is a huge part that we're going to talk about, and that's why you brought your babies today, because we're going to practice what to do when that child is overstimulated. And then we're going to talk a lot after lunch about long-term effects. What does this mean after that child leaves the NICU? What does this mean after that child turns 1? A lot of you will get children that were diagnosed with NAS from the very beginning. After they leave the NICU and they go straight to foster family, you're getting that brand new newborn child. I can give you a lot of techniques about that, but what happens when you get a child that's 2 years old that has NAS? What do you do then? So I'm going to talk a lot about that too. And then a lot of intervention strategies, because that's what we do. And then at the end, we'll talk about some questions. So some definitions. One thing that I like to talk about is substance exposure. What are substances? There's different categories of substances. There's prescription versus non-prescription. And I try to put some examples up there so you can kind of understand. Prescription medicines would be anything like methadone, Subutex, Suboxone, morphine. All those things are prescribed to a person. And then non-prescription, cough medicine, antihistamines, all of those can affect the child too. Social drugs, which would be considered caffeine, tobacco, and cigarettes. Illegal drugs that you can find on the street, heroin, cocaine, meth, marijuana, ecstasy. And then dietary supplements. A lot of people don't realize this, but there are many dietary supplements that are actually also going to affect the child, such as phentermine. So weight loss medicine is stimulants, and so if that mother is taking weight loss medicine, a lot of times if they go to a weight loss clinic, they will tell them, hey, you need to use 2 different forms of birth control, because if you get pregnant while you're using this weight loss medicine, it can actually cause birth defects in the fetus. So that's something a lot of people don't know. In 2015, studies were done to show you that the different types of substances that cause that child to be substance exposed or born with NAS. Can anybody see what the majority is? Prescription. That was shocking to me. When I was starting to do all this research and look through everything, the majority of the children that are born with NAS or substance exposure were prescribed to the mother. That's pretty shocking because they had a person say, I know that you may get pregnant doing this, but here's some medicine. Or they didn't tell them the effects. Or someone who is addicted to heroin and goes to a methadone clinic or a pain clinic and gets prescribed methadone. Methadone is actually makes a woman more fertile. So a lot of those women that are going to methadone clinics or pain clinics and getting prescribed this medicine, that's the majority, that's half of all the children in the state of Tennessee that were born with substance exposure. So what is NAS? NAS stands for neonatal abstinence syndrome. So you're going to hear me say a lot, NAS, NAS. And then I'm also going to use the word SEI a lot. It's going to be in the presentation a lot. So I use a lot of acronyms because that's a long thing to spell. SEI stands for substance exposed infant. What does this mean? When a pregnant woman takes prescription medications or other drugs, their baby may be born drug dependent, and this condition is called neonatal abstinence syndrome. Something that's really important to know is that if a child is born substance exposed, it does not always mean that they qualify and are diagnosed with NAS. That's something really important for you to understand. You can have a child that is substance exposed, SEI, or you can have a child that has NAS. Substance exposed infants are not always diagnosed with NAS. When they go and they're born in the NICU, or they go to the NICU and they start doing those tests, that's where it tells you if that child is going to go through withdrawal or likely to go through withdrawal. So that's where the diagnosis of NAS comes. So when you have a child that if for some reason in your eligibility it says that the child was substance exposed, or if it's a foster family and it says there's a possibility of substance exposure, remember that, because you're going to see children that have the same sort of symptoms whether they have NAS or not. And a lot of those times you're going to be playing mystery, like, why are all these things? This child is delayed in every single area, and you kind of work with that child really closely. You may start thinking, there are a lot of red flags here, and some of these are lining up to be substance exposure symptoms. That could be it too. And a lot of times families will not disclose that they have used substances. Why would they? Because especially when we had that law in Tennessee that prosecuted women. So they're not going to disclose to you that they have used substances during pregnancy. It doesn't matter whether the prescription medicine was given to the mom or she got it off the streets. The effects to the child is the same. So, really important thing to talk about is the increasing rates of NAS in Tennessee. I'm sure many of you have heard this on the news. It's been a very hot topic. The last time I did, before the time when I met Anna, actually I did this presentation at the LICC, and that day was actually the day that they were deciding whether or not that law was going to be passed or renewed for women to be prosecuted. So it was a very hot topic. It was all over the news. Documentaries done, so you've probably seen this. Tennessee is the #1 state in the nation that has the most NAS rates. That's really sad. Go Vols, but we're really great at a lot of things, but this is something that is becoming an epidemic. It's becoming an epidemic across the United States, but Tennessee, unfortunately, is #1 at that. Over the last decade, NAS in Tennessee increased 15-fold, and compared to the nation was just 3-fold. That's a big, big difference. Almost 1,000 infants last year were born with NAS, and this is just a random little fact I throw in there that newborns with NAS are more likely to be male. A lot of the kiddos on your caseload, if they're NAS, for some reason they're more likely to be male. So the hospitalization rates in Tennessee over the past, since 1999, you can see the crazy increasing rates in Tennessee alone of how NAS has been increasing time over time over time. What that is related to, majority of women who were prescribed medicine that had a baby that was going through withdrawal, that was born with NAS, was because of opioid use. Now, opioids are narcotics. They're methadone, they're morphine, they're Oxycontin, those type of drugs. When a woman is prescribed those and she becomes pregnant, that is the most likely drug that is going to cause that baby to go through withdrawal. Now, you could have a baby that the mother does marijuana or she drinks a lot. Now, their symptoms are going to be different, but opioids are the #1 drug that will cause NAS. So, as you can see, from 2007, the very, very dark red areas are the areas that were prescribed the most opioids per county. So, where in 2007 were the most opioids prescribed? Northeast Tennessee. You see that? As you keep going down, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, it keeps increasing, but what area keeps increasing the most? East Tennessee. County by county by county by county. You can see Middle Tennessee is for some reason skipped a lot of this, and then West Tennessee has picked up a lot. I show you this so you can relate to the next slide. Now, NAS hospitalizations by county. The dark brown areas are the counties that have the most NAS diagnoses per county. So, where are the most NAS diagnoses per county? East Tennessee. Do you see how those are related? So opioids being the #1 prescribed pain medicine in Tennessee for women is also compared to the same trend that you can see per county. And the same thing, you can see that the darkest areas are up here, and then down here it's starting to get a little bit more increased. and then a little bit more increase. West Tennessee is kind of coming up there. Middle Tennessee is just varying a little bit, but the most is Northeast Tennessee. There's many reasons for that. A lot of the reasons are that this is a very Appalachia area. People are not really well educated in those rural areas. And also there's a major intersection in Northeast Tennessee. So even if those prescriptions are not prescribed to that person, those prescriptions are used as drugs that are being passed off during those major intersections in Northeast Tennessee. So people, you probably see a lot of cops in those areas because that's major drug trafficking through those areas in Tennessee. So people are stopping off on exits, dropping off drugs on those big trucks, and then going off, and those drugs are being dispersed throughout Northeast Tennessee. That's a major problem that we have. So it's not only that doctors are prescribing these medicines, but also that there's a lot of drug trafficking going on in this area.